Ba 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 ba. Just doing a sound test. I'm so bad with like I don't know how to master sound or video or anything like that. So I'm like, is this good? Is this good? Is this good? It's fine. One ba 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 ba. Yeah, it's fine. I think it's fine.
Probably fine.
Probably fine. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, just as like an intro?
Yeah. So, I'm Hannah. The German pronunciation is Hannah, but people usually have issues with that if they don't speak German. So Hannah is fine. Um,
Hannah.
I'm Austrian. I was born in Austria. I live in southern Austria, so about 45 minutes from the Italian border. I'm currently a student and a working student, so I'm studying international business management. It's my master's degree. And I'm working for a big tech company in the city I study in. They produce semiconductors and stuff. I don't think I'm allowed to say who they are.
That's cool. I didn't know you worked for a big tech company. What sort of stuff do you do?
I'm in digital marketing, and the sub team I'm in is web. So my job as an intern slash working student, as they very fancily call it, but we are interns, is basically to upload the content that is made by others to the web pages. So I put pictures on there, videos and trainings, but I don't produce any of the
Mm.
content, which so it's basically just uploading.
Yeah, it's like
But it's
source.
nice. It's a job you don't take home.
That sounds quite interesting. That sounds like you're really busy though,
Yeah,
especially like
it's
doing
cool.
masters.
Yes.
Stressed?
Yeah. I mean, yes, most of the time. Currently, it's mostly my thesis. So I'm looking for interview partners at the moment. And it's in business. So my thesis is on business development. Looking for interview partners is people that are involved with business development, which is usually higher management in companies that have grown a lot in the past because they have the
Mm.
expertise we're looking for. But try to get some business development manager of a company that earns like has a revenue of like what 300 million euros in a year. Try to get them to talk to me for 20 minutes about their business development. I'm struggling to get interviews at the moment.
Damn. What was kind of your approach to that? Like, how do you present yourself to someone in a way that, like you said, has a revenue of 300 million? How would you
I
even
just
like begin to?
I mean, you usually
Please.
don't get yeah, like please help me. No, usually it's the first issue is finding out their email addresses because they're usually not public. So you usually
Mm.
kind of there are some sites and I don't know how legit they are, but you usually just Google um, XYZ company email format. And then some sites come up that show you what email formats these companies use or which so there's sometimes there are several, sometimes there's only one. So it's usually like, okay,
Mm.
first name dot last name at company name dot
Like
com, and then you
Microsoft.com or
just
whatever.
try if the if the email works.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, if it works, like, do you know what I mean? You've only got to get a couple of people to say like yes. Oh, I
yeah,
suppose it would be their like assistants that would read it first and
yeah.
kind of screen that kind of stuff.
I think today I wrote another like five, so I'm at like 70 emails, and I have one reply
Wow.
that was positive, and I have four other replies which were negative, and the other 60 went unanswered. So
How many people do you need?
I need three companies, and then for each company, I need three people. So it's usually you just
Hmm.
really need three people that agree to do the interview, and then you just say, "Well, if you don't give me to other people, I can't put you in my thesis." And since you're already committed, then they usually don't back out. You
Like
know?
the compassionate side of it. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can
Yeah.
speak to two people.
Yeah, exactly. I was
It's
like,
not too
please
bad.
help me. It's for my master's. And they are usually more willing to help students than anyone else. I'm always like, please.
Mm. So what sort of stuff are you doing with your masters? Do you have like a question that you are trying to answer
Yeah,
or like
so
research something?
so we are a research network of several master students that write on the same topic but different industries. So my chosen industry
Mm.
is IT and software development because my dad has a lot of connections in it. So I'm like, that is easy. I'll take that.
Mm.
And we all write about business development in. We first said middle-sized companies, but we really, because it was so hard for all of us to find interview partners, we just went up with the revenue and employees amount of employees so much that it's not middle-sized companies anymore. It's just any company that has grown a lot in the past years. And our research question is to it's basically finding out how do they organize their business development, and what kind of tools and processes do they use to do so? Because there's not a lot of
Damn.
research on that so far. It's a cool topic.
It's a really cool topic, especially recently. When you say like business
Yeah.
development, what does that entail?
So there's no clear definition in literature at the moment, which is one of the issues too. But in our definition, what we are looking for is really how you organize growth mostly. So growth in revenue, growth in customers, or growth in employees, however that company measures growth. But business development can also mean internal development, which can be R&D or innovation, or just really developing your workforce in like with trainings or something like that.
I suppose recently with like things like social media, internet, AI, like machine learning, all that sort of stuff. It's kind of crazy how much money goes on growth.
Yeah. And I think it will be more and more now a survival factor for companies too. So if you don't grow a certain amount, then you won't be able to survive on the markets, because everything, especially IT and software development and general tech, is super competitive at the moment,
Mm.
and it will become more so competitive, especially now with also resource shortages and stuff. That's also big. It's a big issue in the
Come in the
company I work
news.
for at the moment, that we have a lot of orders, but we can't fulfill them because we don't have the resources to produce what we produce.
Mm.
That's an issue.
Is that like time, employee, like hours, money, like investment and budget, like hard resources?
No, just no. We have time. We have the employees. We would have the money. It's just really the resources we need, like the, how would you say in English?
Like the actual
The
physical, like
materials, I
plastic,
guess.
metal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
interesting to hear. Do you think that it's the market's going in a way that it will be somewhat monopolized? Because you said it's like a fight for survival. Do you think that as the years pass, it will
Hmm.
just kind of be a top four companies and then?
I
Hmm.
honestly, I don't know. I don't. I haven't
Mm.
looked into this market specifically a lot. I don't want to make a prediction.
No, I mean it's good. I think it's an interesting train of thought because you always look at like someone like Google. It's like a huge company, and they just buy up Facebook as well. Like buys Instagram,
Yeah.
buys WhatsApp, and it's like it's slowly getting to like just a handful at the
Actually,
top.
Google. Interesting fun fact: we had a lecture of a lady that works at Google at in my bachelor's, and she told us that Google is actually not only one of the biggest search engine, but is also the biggest hardware producer in the world, because they couldn't find anyone to produce their servers fast enough, so they just decided to do it themselves.
Wow, that's that's kind of insane. Have you
Yeah, Google
ever?
is insane.
How is your when you've been doing this like your masters and like work on top of it? I know before we started this and kind of like the chats beforehand, you spoke about like you had a lot of stuff with like mental health, anxiety,
Yeah.
like stress. How has like your university journey kind of and that do they tie in together? Or are they two separate things?
No, they totally tie in together.
That's a lot of certainty.
I mean, I think the root cause of the anxiety, like Holly said in her podcast, she said it's always something way back that causes it. So I think the cause has been there for a long, long time,
Mm,
of like the general, because my main issue is not that I just get anxious. My main issue is usually tied to like losing control of a situation, or feeling like I lose control of a situation and not being able to handle that feeling. So that's where most of my anxiety comes from.
interesting.
And when I started uni, and my starting my masters was a whole story in and of itself, because I was not finished with my bachelor's when I started my masters, which meant I was still writing my bachelor's thesis while already having classes for my masters. And I also at that time started at the job that I'm at now. So I did like three things at the same time. Then I finished my thesis, and then I had to study for my bachelor's exam. And I was still doing my master's and my job, and it was onboarding and stressful, a lot of new people, a lot of new tasks. So I had a rough start. I made it in the end. I was very, very happy. And then
Mm.
and since then, I've never caught a break. It just always went on. Like the master's was, of course, challenging. it's a full-time master's, but they organize it job friendly, which they don't, but they say they do. So
They're
so
trying.
I usually they try. So I do 30 hours at my job, which is a lot, I admit, but I want the money. That was a priority for me.
I mean,
And
yeah.
so I work from like 7 in the morning to 1 p.m. or to from 7:30 to 1:30 p.m. And then usually classes would start at 4. So I had like 2 to 3 hours in between to eat, do my errands, do stuff, and then 4 to, I don't know, 9, 8, 9 was like lectures. And then
Wow.
in any other time I had went to doing assignments and studying. So I was always busy, and I still am always busy. And I'm noticing like the longer this goes on, the more tired I get and the more burnout I get. And it all came to like this huge peak last September.
Mm.
I remember it is specifically end of September because we had my kitchen remodeled on top of everything in my apartment. And my dad came by with his best friend, and my brother was also there. And my brother just looked at me and took me aside and was like, "What's going on with you?" Because I was like shaking. I was so inside of myself. I didn't talk to anyone. I just did stuff like mechanically. And I'm usually a very talkative and outgoing person. My friends say I talk too much. It's neither here nor there if I actually do. And I was like, I'm just not feeling great. The last months have been so stressful and so hard. And the moment he talked to me about it, I just started tearing up without wanting to. So I was like just trying not to cry. And then I was like, but I don't want to talk about it now, not in front of everyone. I'll figure this out. And in the afternoon, my dad then came back with my mom, and he was like, Hannah, what was going on with you today? Because he obviously noticed. And I just broke down. I like cried for 2 hours and talked about everything that stressed me out with uni and life and work, and just everything was too much. And then we decided together that I was going to go to therapy. And that has helped a lot. Even though the stress hasn't been less or my anxiety has not necessarily gone away, I just have learned to cope with it instead of just saying, okay, I'll deal with this later and I'm not talking about it. It's okay. It's gone. It's going to go away whenever I finish this assignment. It doesn't go away.
So that all happened. So you said that it kind of peaked in that point about last September,
Yeah.
but possibly been building up for years, like decades.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it might have. I don't know when it started get really bad. But I think like this whole never stopping that I did, because I went to in Austria you can do a 5 year school before you go to university. So I went to
Mm.
these through these 5 years of school. It's primary, then middle school, and then you can do 5 or 4 years. I'm not going to explain the whole thing; it's complicated. But I did the 5 years, so I finished school when I was 19 with my A levels. And then I went straight into my bachelor's. I didn't take a year off, I didn't take a gap year. And then I went straight into my master's with this crazy overlap of not having finished my thesis and already starting like the entire new chapter in my life. And now I'm 23, and in July I'm going to turn 24. I'm going to have a master's when I'm 24. And I'm so burned out from it because I just kept on working. And I think that and the pressure I put on myself just really came to like together in September too.
It does sound intense. I've never done a master's
Yeah.
or I never went past the college education, but I know from what people have said and friends who do something similar, like doing a thesis and a master, especially having a crossover, that's super intense. Like people I speak
Yeah.
to have like masters and they're like, I'm so stressed, and they're like, oh, I got my thesis and I'm so stressed. But to do like both, how long was that crossover kind of period?
I mean, to be completely honest, it was my fault because in the summer after where I was supposed to write my thesis, in the semester where I was supposed to write my thesis, was the first COVID semester. Where I moved
Mm.
back to because I had moved out to a different part of Austria for my bachelor's. I moved back with my parents because I didn't want to be alone, so I moved back, and I just didn't do anything for the thesis. So I finished my theoretical part in like August, and then had to do my whole research chapter with like interviews and everything in 3 weeks.
Oh
So it
wow.
was like these 3 really intense weeks, but then I still had to do like the exam.
Wow, that's
And
incredibly intense. So it's kind of
yeah.
self-inflicted, but also you're like it was
Yes.
because there was just so much going on all the time. It was like,
Yeah.
um, you sound really motivated though to do. Like you said, you came out of school. You're like 19. You're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go into my thesis. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to do 23 years old. And I'm going to have my master's. Like that's really driven. Would you say you're like a
Yeah.
motivated person?
I think so. Yes. I think a lot of the motivation though came from me. I mean, I did my master's and my bachelor's because I wanted to,
Hmm.
but at least not a small part of this me wanting to do it came from me wanting to satisfy expectations I thought others had in me, like teachers and relatives, not necessarily my parents or my brothers, but other people that might be important in my life but don't necessarily shouldn't have that kind of impact on my decision making.
Mm.
And I think it also, like, I started self-reflecting more when I moved into my own apartment and came like to the conclusion that maybe I shouldn't listen to people like that anymore, and maybe they shouldn't have an impact on my decision making. But then I was like, did I make the decision to go into my master's just because I think people want me to? And that of course fucked with my head a lot. And then I think that contributed to me falling into that hole. But now I'm at a point where I say I really want to finish it for myself, regardless of why I started it. And
Mm.
now I'm motivated to finish it.
I'm really glad that you're in that space. I know exactly what you how you feel. Um, Especially when you say you've taken like there's a transition period. I think a lot of especially a lot of students that I've spoken to have gone through that transition of like pressure from everyone. Like it's very strange how academic places like schools and colleges, it's like they're set up for you to go along this path, and it's a lot
Yeah.
of pressure. Did you find that in Austria? I know in the UK, we even at a young age, I remember a parents' evening, or my parents have recalled a parents' evening they went to when I was like 5. And they were like, "Oh, Mike's quite intelligent. He's probably he's university material if you guide him in the right way. Going through school, you have exams, and they're like, oh, you get this amount of points to go into university. Like you could get into this uni, you could do this course and things like that. And it was very much like you're going to uni. It depends what you want to do." Rather than like there are options like outside of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it has changed a lot since I was in like middle school, when you take kind of the decision if you want to continue to go to school, to like a higher vocational school, or if you want to do an apprenticeship, which is also an option in Austria. But when I was in
Mm,
school, um, so in Austria, you have to do 9 years of school, period. This is just, everyone has to do 9 years of school, but the basic school system is that you only have 8. You do 4 years of primary school and 4 years of middle school. And then you either decide to continue going to school or you do an apprenticeship, but then you're missing a year. So you have
mm,
to do like this 1 year school that's supposed to prepare you for your job. So you just learn how to um, present yourself in an interview. You try out different jobs that are popular in the city you live in, so you can choose what you like or what direction you want to go in. And it's actually really, really cool. But it had the reputation of being a school for people who just not good enough for anything else.
mm,
So when I was that age, which is like when I started to go into the higher vocational school, was 14. I definitely felt that if I went to that school, I would fail because I couldn't do anything else. So for sure,
mm,
there's some sort of societal academic pressure there. It has changed a lot though in the recent past. My brother went to that school and he's doing really, really great. He loves his job, and he would have just hated going to school further. So
mm.
definitely it's opening up more, especially since now they need more people in craftsmanship with apprenticeships, because we're too many academic people instead of just
Yeah,
workers.
academic
Not
heavy.
just workers, period. Yeah.
Yeah, I it's it something I spoke about or have thought about. Sorry, quite a lot. Especially people like in this country where it is very academic heavy. Um, and they're like trying. There's a government thing at the moment trying to push um like craft like trade jobs like construction workers and all those kind of like skilled labor jobs, there's like a huge push. Like you said, there's like a special what do they call it? I can't remember the name of it now, but it's basically a school that you go to after between sort of sixth form and college, where
Hmm.
you can do a year and you get a qualification that can help you go down like a trade path.
Yeah, exactly.
And because it's gone too far one way, but for some reason
Mm,
back like there's like a bad image on that kind of job, that it's
exactly.
like a lower job, or you're just not clever enough, or you're not intelligent enough, and nobody wants to
Exactly.
do that. um yeah, it's interesting that it kind of crosses borders to, like Germany, Austria.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's because this is a jobs that I needed. You know,
Mm.
people.
They're
My
essential, yeah.
brother does like super high quality work. He has like a lot of attention to detail, and it's a whole. Of course, the whole profession itself. This he knows things I'll never even think about floors. You know,
Mm,
I couldn't tell you one thing, but like for example, the pressure that a floor can hold. Of course, it's something you need to think about, but I wouldn't never even consider thinking about it. That's really
100%.
cool.
Yeah, for real, it's definitely understated. That's the case. I think it's
Yeah.
good that it's the views on it are changing, for sure. So whenabouts through your journey through kind of school and college did you start to feel those expectations kind of creeping in or developing?
I think it was when I was in this higher vocational school. It was for commerce and tourism, and I was always a straight A student up until that point. And when I think it was the second year of that school when my grades just started to like kind of not get super bad. I just failed like two or three tests, or they were more important tests to be fair. But the rest of my grades were fine, and also even these grades were fine. Like the overall class grade was okay. I didn't fail a class at all. I just failed that test, and
Jesus,
that
that's yeah.
started with a feeling. I was like, my mom was disappointed, of course, because she was used to different things from me, and she never. I say this, my mom always wanted the best for me and never wanted me to think that I needed good grades to be good or anything. She
Mm.
never wanted that. But she also wanted me to do good, and she let me. And when I failed, she told me that I could have tried harder. Or when she was angry at me that I failed, she said maybe something like, "You didn't try enough or didn't try hard enough." But I felt like I did. I just had a hard time for whatever reason that week and didn't perform as well as I could. And I think that is
Mm.
when I really started internalizing the feeling that, or equating my self-worth to whatever I do. So I'm only good if I succeed in school or in uni. And yeah, I mean that is still there, and I'm still working on that, but I'm starting to notice that I don't care about grades as much as I do before.
Which is that, and it's been a process. And like you said, I'm sure you.
Yeah.
What is it they call it? It's like performance. You're very. It sounds like you're very performance focused. Like end
Yes.
goal. I get there. Success. Anything below that goal, like.
Yeah, exactly. And I sacrificed a lot of things to get to my perceived goals, or the not perceived, they were my goals, but to get the perceived performance I thought I needed,
Mm.
even though I
What
didn't
sort of
need to do
things?
that
Yeah.
too.
What sort of things did you sacrifice?
Oh, my mental health for starters. I just worked myself to death. I would constantly spread myself too thin. Always. We had a lot of extracurriculars you could do in our school. A lot of it was language based, like language competitions where you would compete against students from other schools in like English. And then I came in second. I was like, fuck, I could have done better than that girl. I know her. She doesn't speak English as well as I do. And I was super mad at myself. Even though I did great, there were like 100 students and I came in second. But I was like,
Wow.
no, damn it. Or I don't know, I did a barkeeping course in school. I did like all the extracurriculars. I had like, I think my worst year was when I had 42 hours of school in a week, not including like homework and stuff. So you see, I always overworked myself, and
Mm.
then I had stuff outside of school, like a sports team or volunteering work, which are all in of itself I really enjoyed, but I couldn't do any of them properly because I did all of them. You know what I mean?
It sounds like you were. at a level where you saw a goal, or like any kind of goal that you saw, whether it was barkeeping or
Yeah.
sports, you're like, I want to be the best at
Yeah.
that. I want to do that. I want to do that. It's kind of inspiring. Well, I say kind of. It's very inspiring to see someone, or see you, that determined to like do things and be good at them. You know, it's what's the word? Ambitious.
It
It's
is.
very, very ambitious.
It is. But on the other hand, now I'm thinking back, I'm like, if I would have done one or two things less, like maybe not the barkeeper. I loved doing the barkeeper. That was great. But maybe I shouldn't have like done this volunteering thing because it was a lot of involvement, a lot of prep work, and then go there and do it and then do the work after. If I wouldn't have done that, I could have been so much more focused on the barkeeper that I really enjoyed, for example. And this is what I'm doing now. I still do volunteer work. But I told everyone, I was like, I'm gonna do as much as I can, and depending on where I am at that moment and how my workload is at work and at school or uni, I might not be able to do as much as I used to. And I was so scared to do that. I was so scared. I was like, but they were like, it's fine. It's super good that you're doing that because we're noticing how stressed you are. So take as much time as you need, and whenever you have the time, we're really happy to have you. And doing that in several instances, also with friends, I always have felt the need to, if my friends asked me to meet, I would say yes always. I would never say no to anything. And now saying no because I don't have time more often, um, they don't hate me because of it. They just learn to respect my time as I had to learn to
Mm.
respect my time.
Oh, there's so much to unpick there. There's
Yes.
like people pleasing, like say like, yeah, like so there's so many routes to go down. I'm like writing notes as you're
Mm.
speaking. I'm like, oh dad, I want to go there. I want to go there. I want to. There's like yeah, everything. There's like from saying no, like boundaries. Um, I think I'll start with like saying it's how do I word it? I love that you are ambitious and driven and motivated to live your life and do all these things. And I love that you're in this place now where you're starting to actually control it rather than it controlling you. And it sounds
Yeah,
like, don't get me wrong, it sounds like that's been a process,
it has
and
been.
it's
No,
been a hard process.
it has been a hard process, yeah, and that's okay. I mean, it has been, and looking back now, I was like, what was I doing? Because it wasn't good for me either. I just did it for
Mm.
everyone else and not for myself. And now I'm choosing the things I really enjoy doing too.
So you were trying to do these things to kind of say to other people, like, look, I've done this, I've done this, I've got these grades.
No, I did them because other people asked me to do them and I wouldn't say no. And I did enjoy them, but it was also always the motivation of me to help this person. Even though there's a noble and nice motivation, I didn't do most things I did for myself, but I did them for others. And it's good to
Things
do
like
things
what?
for others in like a frame, but I
Mm.
think you also have to enjoy them yourself and do them for yourself.
In what way? Just so I'm not assuming anything.
For like with the volunteering thing, I really enjoy doing it and I love it. And but I would say yes to like three different projects that we're on. Not one, I wouldn't be able to do any of them right, but I didn't want to disappoint the organizers and say no. So my motivation to say yes would be for them. And then I would be annoyed with myself because I wasn't able to do any of them properly because I was spreading myself too thin in the end.
Mm.
So now I choose one project and I say I do it for myself because I know I enjoy doing it, but I can do it properly. And I do it for the other person because I help them, but I can only help that person because that's the bandwidth I have at that moment.
I love how you use bandwidth. That's a good way of wording that.
It's such a
No,
corporate word, though.
it works really well. Like within your capacity, you're not gonna like
Yeah,
drive
exactly.
yourself into the dirt doing something just to like hold someone up. Um, no, that's good. Was there points throughout your journey where you were conscious that you were spreading yourself too thin? Like if a volunteer was like, "Oh, we've got this project to do this," were you ever like, "Oh, I shouldn't do that"?
Several times. I think it never changed my mind about doing it, though. I was like, I didn't, really don't have time, but I'm still gonna do it like, when I find the time. So it was
Mm.
more making me more determined to do it. I always heard it from my dad. He always knew. He was always, Hannah, stop. You don't have to do this, you know? You don't have to do everything for everyone. You don't have to work so much. Just you can chill for a second. I never listened to him in hindsight. I'm grateful though he kept telling me because he never stopped, and if I do too much, he still does tell me. So
You said that like almost sowing the seeds for you to be more
yeah,
aware in the future. Like I said, a slow
yeah,
process. I think you've got to learn it. You've got to learn it for yourself for it to be. Someone can tell you something over and over and over again, but until you like learn the lesson that they're trying to tell you, then it's not. It's what is that saying? It's like to teach someone is to know it's possible. To learn is to make it possible for you, or something like that. I think that applies
yeah. It does. It does.
for sure. So I know this is kind of like revolving around mental health, but
It's okay.
you, it's like, well, I mean, it's been your journey. It's like
Mm.
I think the side effects of your journey is almost like stuff like you burn out, you get stressed, you get
Yeah.
depressed, you get anxious, you literally break down. Like it's it's
Yes.
all part of like yeah, yeah, you're telling me it's all part of that journey. So when did you just what changed when you were like, okay, I need to sort this out. Like, I need to do something about this.
So I think a lot of it had to do with that summer break was ending, and it was the first semester back at uni. It was our third semester, and that semester was by far the most exhausting for me in general.
Mm,
And I noticed after the first month. So that was the first, like going out of break back to uni. I'm noticing how stressful it was before break and how much more stressed I have gotten. So that was part one. And part two, I have to go a little bit further back. I moved to the town where I study and work in now in February of 2021.
mhm,
Yes, so last year. And of course, as with any move, kind of changed my life around a little bit. I met a lot of friends there that I didn't have before. And also, very interestingly, I'm now in the most international friend group I've ever been in my entire life. I grew up with all of Austrian people around. There were no
mm,
or few people of other nationalities or even ethnicities, or really, it wasn't really very diverse, not at all. And now I'm with people from a university. In my course, we are 30 people, and only three of them are Austrians, and everyone else is from all over the world. I think
mm.
we're like 17 nationalities in our course. So of course I got around to like more people that spoke different languages. My main language of communication, except with my family and Austrian friends, is English. I speak it at work, in uni, with most of my friends in town I live in. Um, and two of them, especially Julia and Luana, I don't think they mind telling their names. They're very close friends of mine. One of them
There's
is
no
Brazilian,
surname,
one of
sorry.
them is Spanish. Yeah,
Okay.
true. Ju and Lua. Um, Both of them are really, really great friends of mine that I met through university. And they have told me that in Brazil, as well as in Spain, especially amongst younger people, the topic of mental health is a very open one. Whereas in Austria, there's a huge stigma against it. No one really talks about it. We don't get like mental health talks in school or anything. I didn't grow up with like a culture of like mental health or looking at your mental health. It's usually just shoved in the back. I always felt weird feeling bad too. That's a whole different story, I think. But they really also noticed I was feeling stressed, and I opened up more to them more and more. I learned to talk about it more. And that made me notice how much I actually needed the help that I had got in the end. So it
Mm.
was, on the one side, me noticing how stressful uni actually was after being out of it for summer break and coming back into it. And on the other hand, my friends um, teaching me to be more open about my mental health and talking about it more with me. That made me realize that I that one, it's not a weakness to go to therapy; it's actually a strength. And two, that sometimes you just need help. You can't solve everything yourself.
Especially being the determined person you are. Like,
Yeah.
even I can imagine there was even a stage where you were like, right, I need to get better, and now you've set that as your goal, and you're like, now I'm gonna
Yes.
go there.
Yes. I actually did. It didn't work, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it is one of those things. It's when you say weird about feeling bad. I know you said that's like a whole other thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a common thing. I really respect what you say
Yeah.
about the different cultures helping. Like Spanish people, Brazilian people, especially from Twitch and things like that, you see that Spanish people are a lot more like, oh, it's okay to cry, like, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And in Europe, we're like,
Yeah.
like, let's not talk about it.
Yeah. Austria
Very
or
different.
Germany, I'm calling us out. We are horrible at this.
Yeah, England's.
I think it's just, the whole culture you grow up in. I've been, as I said, surrounded most of my life with mostly Austrian people. You have like the outlier here or there,
Of course.
like school, but it's not, they don't change your perspective as much as when you have like this real international friend group. So in Austria, as I said, we don't really talk about it. We don't get any mental health help either, which is, there are like, now there are more and more opportunities for students to go get help, and also for younger students, not just university students but pupils, to like have like a teacher with a counseling function in every school, and school
Mm.
nurses are equipped to at least give like mental first aid, if you want to call it. I think at least my school did that when I left. So I wasn't able to go there
Yeah.
anymore, but at least they have it now. And my brother is going to the same school I went to, and they have like, I think like an anonymous suggestion box or something where you can put,
It's
or
cool.
not suggestion box, but a sorrow box where you can put their sorrows and somebody will answer them, which is really nice. So it's opening up a lot more, but it's still not very much talked about. It's kind of, in Austria, there are like a couple of things you don't talk about. It's like sex, mental health, and your salary. These are things you don't talk about with people that you don't know
Mm.
well.
Just like the
And so just
cultural.
this, yeah, the cultural stigma around it. And then you don't want to, and if no one ever talks about it, you're never taught it's okay. And you don't want to disrupt anyone's day by saying, oh, I feel sad, I feel super anxious, I'm actually a bit panicky right now, I don't want to be here anymore because I feel that way. You you just are afraid because you never hear of it. You always are afraid that you are um gonna be regarded in a bad way
Mm.
somehow, even
It's
though that's
it's
often
very
not the
isolating.
case. Yeah, it
Everyone,
is.
like, if
That's
you've got
true.
students that are all going through thesis, all doing through masters, all at different degrees, or not even students, even just anyone that kind of at a young age that's trying to figure themselves out and like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? Like, everyone else has got their shit together. What am I supposed to like? Do I do this route? Do I do this route? Like, what am I doing? And I
Yeah.
feel bad all the time. I've got no motivation to do anything. I have no ideas, or I have ideas and they're not going to work. And like, like always going on, and you're like, I'm the only one who feels like this.
Yes.
And
And just
it's
having friends that have told me that they went through similar things, or that they used to go to therapy, or that they still do go to therapy, just helped a lot. And I had a lot of very open talks with especially Julia and Lua about this. But just also, I learned to, if somebody asks me how are you, I just say how I feel instead of just saying fine as a default.
that's such a classic, isn't it? Like, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
not to
it's
everyone, of course, but if my friend would ask me, "How do you feel? How are you?" and I wouldn't say fine if I was just crying 10 minutes ago in the bathroom or something.
how does that feel now that you have a friend group or like a family, and you bet you have people around you that you can be yourself with and open about? Like, how much different does it feel?
Very different, very different. I really enjoy it. It's I would think that on your mental health journey, especially when you start to have like these breakthroughs, you always get to know yourself a lot better too. So I know a lot more about myself, and I'm a lot more comfortable within myself and with myself ever since I started getting better and going to therapy. And even before that, I had like these moments of clarity where I was like, oh, I never quite got there in the end. It always reverted kind of back to not being that
Mm.
great, but I still grew as a person, I think, in that time. And having people that you're super close with and being able to talk to about like your really deepest, darkest secrets, inner feeling type of stuff is really liberating, because you're never alone with anything anymore. So I can really talk. For example, my best friends are probably my brothers. Can talk to them about anything. There are zero secrets between us, and that is just such a great thing, because even if we do fight and we do get annoyed with each other and we have issues, they are always there, and that's just one of the best feelings, I think, in the world.
It's much more of a it's much more of a conscious relationship. Like, you're not gonna argue, and someone's gonna bring something up and be like, "Oh yeah, well you got bad mental health or anything." It's just like we're allowed to be
Yeah.
annoyed at each other. Like, I am annoyed at you, you're annoyed at me. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
We're still friends. Like, we're still gonna hang out, but
Yeah,
like, I'm pissed at
exactly.
you.
It's just right now I need space. That doesn't mean I hate you in general. That doesn't mean I wanna never see you anymore. It's just did the one thing you did just now annoyed me and I need space or we need to talk about it and then but it will go back to being good again and even better because whenever you solve a conflict, I think your relationship grows further. So
Mm.
that's always great.
Yeah, whatever doesn't kill you
That's
makes you
one of
stronger for sure.
Exactly. And that's one of the best things COVID has done because I had to move back to my parents' house when COVID hit first. And Austria had quite a severe lockdown. So you weren't even allowed to leave you weren't allowed to go outside and go on walks. But that was it. You have like one walk a day or something. So we were stuck together because they did school from home. I tried to do my bachelor thesis from home. So we were home all day with each other, so we really had to learn how to get along. And I got along with them before and I loved them before, of course. But that just brought us that much closer together because we were forced to start getting to know each other. Sorry, I had to burp.
Okay. I think it's so important, like that realization that if people were pissed at you, especially people in your family or friends, like they're allowed to be pissed at you, or they're allowed to like
Yeah.
criticize something. If they're like, Hannah, you're not tidying up your dishes, like it's it's pissing me off because I have to tidy them up. It's like you don't have to
Yeah.
get like offended by it. You can just say like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I can, or like, oh, I was gonna do them, like whatever the answer is. To just
It's
kind of shut down is hard.
yeah, it's not a criticism of you as a person. It's just that one thing that you might be doing wrong.
I like that a lot. And you've found that there's so much to unpick. I have so many notes, and I'm like, because everything you say is so interesting. Like it feels like you're so conscious of like your journey and everything you go through. And although you're like, yeah, like I'm still human, I'm still learning. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck up sometimes. I'm probably gonna spread myself too thin at some point. Like
Yeah.
I probably am now. Like, but like to a degree. But you're like learning how to get better, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to see. What was it like going into therapy for the first time?
Oh, it was super scary. I was so nervous. I called, like, my mom gave me the phone number, and I was like,
Mm.
oh god, I gotta call her, right? And I was like, oh my god, I was obsessing about like the call like an hour before I called. I was like, I gotta call today. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna call now. No, no, ah. I called. She was super nice. I was like, hey, hi. I think I need help. I think something along those lines. I didn't know what to say. And she's like, okay, do you just want to make an appointment and come by, or is it super urgent? I was like, no, I think an appointment will be fine. And then I went for the first time, and she knows my parents. She lives in the same village my parents live in, which
Mm.
first kind of weirded me out, but after talking to her, was it was fine. She's super great. I really really like her. So I have no issues with that anymore. But I was like in, and she and legit she came in. She was like, "Okay, how are you today?" And I was like, "I'm nervous." She's like, "That's super normal. Let's just talk about you. What's your life like right now?" And then I talked about uni and work for 2 minutes, and then I started crying, and I didn't stop until the end of the session.
Nice.
It just kind of asked me like about the situation and what was bothering me specifically, and then we just talked about that for that time of the session. And afterwards, I felt super liberated. It was super super nice after because I felt I finally took a step to make it better. And she told me from the beginning it was gonna be a long time and a long road, and we're gonna work on this for a while. But the
Mm.
positive thing is it's never too late to start doing it. And she said, and that was really cool. I like to tell the story because she told me a couple of sessions in, she was like, Hannah, you're so early for this. You're 23 now and you're addressing issues that most people don't address their whole life. My brother just came in. It's his room. He just okay. He left. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. It's like there's not like um any expectations. You know, it's just it is what it is.
It's cool. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to say that we liked his song, his music.
Oh, yeah. I can get him back after. I think he's home anyways.
Yeah, I liked
I
it a
mean,
lot.
or do you want to tell him now?
I don't mind. I'm interested in hearing your kind of journey.
All right.
I've just not come out of therapy. Like a year ago, or it was about 6 months ago. Kind of stopped doing sessions. I think I'll
Mhm.
probably go back into them
Yeah.
at some points this year, maybe. Just like you said, it's just so liberating just to talk through things.
Yeah. It's just, and even though it's, you can talk about most of the stuff with your friends too, what always helped me is that I knew, one, she wasn't able to tell anyone else. She's not allowed to, and unless there's direct harm to yourself, I think, or something. And second is
Mm.
that she has really heard it all. There's nothing weird you can tell this woman that she hasn't heard before, and even if it is, that is the person that is least likely to judge you of everyone, I think.
That's nice.
It's a
I
bit,
think that's nice. I'm glad you had a
yeah.
positive experience with her as well, because I
Yeah,
know
me
some
too.
people it's hard to. They have to go through like a few therapists to kind of find someone
Yeah.
that they connect with. But then again, it's all kind of part of the journey, which is really cool.
He's back.
Kind
You
of.
can tell him now.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hi guys.
How's it going? You okay?
So what's up? Hello.
What's up? How's it going?
How are
How's your day
you?
been?
Thank you, thank you.
I'm good, man. I was just telling Hannah, we really like listening to your song.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, that means so much.
It's cool.
Thank
We
you,
watched
thank
we
you.
watched the video on stream. I hope you don't like copyright strike me.
Yeah, I mean, I will send you something. You can pay me then.
Yeah, invoice me, email me.
Yeah,
It's fine.
no problem, no problem. We're
That's
going
cool.
to therapy with our dog now, so I would love to stay, but I have to go.
Oh,
Wanna see
it's
the
lovely to
dog?
meet you.
Do you
Though.
want to see the dog?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Luna?
obviously.
Yeah.
Luna!
Yeah, always, always. Luna.
Always,
Luna!
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's going
I
good.
like this one. It's going lovely. Oh my
Luna.
god. Oh, so wonderful.
Luna.
Hello, Luna.
Sure. Sure.
Oh,
High
she's
five.
beautiful.
High five. Yeah. No. Almost.
I think she has stage fright. Okay.
So, guys, have a
She's like,
lovely
this is a lovely
day.
boy.
See you.
Thank you, you too.
Sorry, everyone
Ciao,
is
ciao,
here
yeah.
now.
Everyone's curious. They're like, what's
Yeah,
going
they're
on?
like,
Now?
what's going on?
Oh, bless her. Luna looks beautiful as well.
Yeah, she had I told you what she had. I don't know the English word anymore, but the discs in her back popped out,
Mm.
like several of them, and she had to
Oh,
have
bless her.
surgery. But she's doing great
She's
now.
just taking it slowly.
Yeah, they're going to we went to physio for a couple of weeks with her. I think it's one of the last sessions, anyways. And the physical therapist for dogs, which I didn't know existed before, told us that the worst thing that can happen now is that you can fall down the stairs and break a tooth, but her back should be fine. So I was like, that's great.
Perfect. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I remember you saying on stream, you were like, "Oh fuck, like this is stressing me out." Like,
Yes.
obviously, understandably. But yeah, I'm glad. It seems like you're really close with your family, though.
Yes. Yes. We've always been super close with each other. I've always had a good relationship with my parents too. But as I said, that like lockdown quarantine period of COVID, where everyone was at home doing home office and working from home, just got us that much closer together, which is really nice. I really enjoy being super close to them because they are great people. Not gonna lie.
That's nice, and like it seems like you see them as friends as well. Like you're like, "Oh, can I
Yes.
borrow your computer?" And it's like, "Yeah, it's fine." Like, "Oh, here's the dog." Like your dad's like, "Hello."
Yes.
Like it's really lovely to see. Kind of diving back to the
Yes.
like before therapy, like from what I can gather, you're determined, hardworking, ambitious. Like you're going for it in your life, and you're doing it. That you kind of dabbling with the process of doing it for other people and doing it for yourself. So as you were kind of going into that, like I need help stage, how did it kind of feel, kind of before and after, I guess, to say like I actually can't do this on my own. Like I actually need to go and get some help doing this.
So the first people I told were my parents. um I mean, I had talked about it with friends before that I might be interested in like doing something, but it was never like this firm decision that I've made. I was just like an abstract concept that sometime maybe in my life I would go to therapy. But really that like those weeks leading up, like these 3 September weeks that were really difficult for me, really hard for me, I just felt like a huge weight had been lifted when I told my parents and they didn't start screaming at me. I was nervous because I thought they might take it badly, even though I didn't think they would.
Mm.
But this like nervousness is still always there, especially since I've always felt like I have to perform to be worth something. Like that's one of the biggest issues too. Like losing control over a situation usually means I can't perform as well, which is why I get so anxious in situations like this. So having tell my parents I think I might need help, even though I knew they would support me no matter what, just felt so nerve wracking. And after having said and having admitted I need help and I need to see someone, it immediately felt better. It immediately
Mm.
felt like a weight had been lifted, and also knowing that there was the support of my parents and my family was super helpful in that moment as well. And
How
it
did
still
you?
is.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're
Yeah.
saying. Especially when it. Did you ever felt like you were saying, you were kind of doing all these things to try and succeed, and to kind of fail would to go against your self-worth? Did you ever get to a point, I suppose, in that moment, did you feel like I've kind of failed to look after myself, like it's all just up in the air, outside my
Yeah.
control?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
so
I
from kind of there, what, because I know, I to kind of put it into perspective, what's going through my head. I know a lot of people, that myself included, for me to say I'm going to go to therapy is like I can think it as much as I want, but to say it out loud is like I've fucked up. Like I'm
Yeah,
fucked up. Do
no,
you know what I mean? There's like
exactly.
that kind of shame to it.
Exactly. That's always it. I've had
Mm,
this one session where we were like talking about me being productive because that's something on my own I struggle to do a lot, which is why study streams are so great because people are working with me.
mm,
Um, and I talked about like, okay, I sat down and started a project, and very often it happens that like after 10 minutes of not achieving something, I get super frustrated. And maybe not 10 minutes, but after trying for a while and then not getting anywhere because I haven't done any of the prep work, I just wanted the result. I don't get anywhere and
mm.
I get super frustrated and I get super annoyed with the task until I really sit down and just do it. And then it takes me like, what, 20, 30 minutes? I think we all know that feeling. And we went
Yeah.
through like the whole process of talking about it. And then she asked me how I felt about like she asked me how do you feel after you then have accomplished a task, after you've like done the work, actually done the work properly and finished. And I was like, okay, then I usually go and relax, I get tea or something and think to myself how unnecessary that I did that again, how annoying. And she's like, this is not what you're supposed to do. Don't be ashamed of, or don't be annoyed with yourself because you didn't do it like that. We're all just human. You don't
Mm.
have to be annoyed. If you did it, be proud of what you did, regardless of how you got there. That's
Yeah, like
understandable.
you're learning, you're learning. Yeah, I understand completely. Like you're learning your lessons along the way. I think I can't think he said it now, but it's like if you set yourself a schedule, or like you time block your day,
Yeah.
it's like you can be as accurate as you want, but being a human being, you're probably gonna get it about 60% right,
Yeah.
like because you're human. But that's so much better than not doing it at all.
Exactly. This is also something I had to learn. It's not bad to do just a little bit. It's always better just go
Mm,
for a short walk if you don't feel up for a long one. And if you don't feel like you want to go to the gym, do a yoga session at home or have a small dance party with yourself. If you want,
I love that.
yeah, I do it a lot. Just get the energy out. Or
Mm,
I don't know, if you have to like write a paper, start with one part, and if you only write like one page, even though you wanted to do like 5 pages, it's better to have that one page done than to have zero done. So
mm.
whatever you can do is not wasted, even though it might just be an hour instead of the 3 you scheduled or something.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. It's like just chipping away, getting. You don't have to sit down and say, right, I'm going to put 100% in now,
Yeah,
and it's going to
exactly.
be done and finished. It's like even if I do 20%, like
Yeah,
that's better than not going for 100 and then burning out and doing nothing. Like
exactly.
yeah, and way more sustainable, as
Yes.
you probably know, like not spreading yourself too thin. Um, Yeah, I see that completely. Since you've kind of gone on this journey of kind of discovering yourself, and because it seems like therapy for you is not so well, it was obviously doing mental health, but it was also figuring out kind of how your mind works and then how you can use that to live in the way that's best suited for you.
Yeah.
Like learning the tools, learning what you need to know, which is lovely. I think that's a really beautiful thing. It's kind of why we're starting these podcasts, because hopefully, even if one person listens to you and they're like, "Oh, I spread myself too thin," like I do that as well.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
I'm not alone in this now. Like, and it's like that's you're it's already like a kind of therapy, or at least planting that seed in there,
Exactly.
which is lovely. This is kind of dialing back quite a bit now to when you said there are a couple of things. I know this is something that I felt like you mentioned before the podcast started, and then I wanted to kind of dive into it. I've been trying to find the loop, and there's only one, or a link. And you were saying that in Austria, there's only three things people don't talk about, like mental health, sex. You know exactly where I'm going with
Yes.
this. I've been really curious to know, like, what. I mean, we don't have to go into it if you don't want to, obviously, but I am very curious to hear your story if you want to talk
Yeah,
about it.
sure. Just quickly, you're talking about me being bi, right? That is where this is going. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. No, that's totally
I'm
fine.
very naive for this kind of stuff.
That's cool.
Let's talk about it. Go on,
Yeah.
let's hear your story.
I very recently, about a couple of years ago, only figured it out. I think I always kind of knew, but I never consciously knew, if that makes sense. You always kind of know, but then you push it away and you say, "Oh, no, maybe not," and not me. I'm not the weird one, you know.
Mm.
So growing up, for sure, in Austria, sexuality is not a topic you talk about a lot. Neither is sex. So
That's why you think it's like a weird. You're like, I'm not the weird one
yeah,
because
exactly,
it's just not.
exactly.
But yeah,
That
okay.
was because there's no real representation either. At least back then there wasn't a lot, because I also grew up
How long?
mostly without the internet, so I didn't have the internet from a
Mm.
young age. I mean, it was around, but I didn't use it a lot. I was still with like the flip phone in primary and middle school. I didn't have a phone in primary school. I'm
I do miss them.
I was born very late 90s. Still, I'm like in between. You know what I mean? In between
Yeah.
like this internet generation and the ones before.
Mm.
But regardless, I didn't have the internet that much growing up, so you couldn't see representation for yourself or seek your own representation as much as you can do now. And we didn't have something like Netflix either, where you could just watch any show. You just had what was on TV. And on TV back then, and in like print media, like these magazines that you read as a teen, there wasn't much about this. And if there were any LGBT people, they weren't represented in the greatest way either. It was, at best, they kind of were like shifty, and at worst they were outright bad people. So it wasn't always that
Yeah.
great to look at.
I see that.
And I think the first time I ever really thought about it was with my first boyfriend, who kind of jokingly, it's like, "Oh, you're for sure bi." And I don't know if he knew or if he said it jokingly. I never asked him. But we were like, for shits and giggles, taking like a test on the internet to see if I was bi, you know, just like one of these very obvious tests where it's like, who do you want to kiss? Man, woman, both. And I would
Oh
always
yeah,
like
like a
take the
BuzzFeed thing, right?
heterosexual. Yeah, exactly. And I was always like the heterosexual option, you know. But around that was when I was, what, 16 maybe. And exactly around the
Mm.
time I started um, getting more acquainted with like the internet, you like start to find like there was like this one meme page called 9gag. I don't know if you know it, but I spent a lot of time on
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
It was basically just a lot of memes. And there you start kind of seeing more and more people talking more openly about sexuality and what different types of sexuality are there, because I only knew about gay and lesbian. Bisexuality for a long time wasn't even a concept in my mind. Um Anyways, and then I started questioning. I'm like, maybe, am I or am I not? Am I? And
What made you
I came to a
question
very,
What made you question those thoughts? Like, why was? I mean, I can't. I'm not going to say I haven't had thoughts of it myself.
yeah.
Was it like going into relationships or just like genuinely, or like,
No, just
like
generally,
were
I
you
was like,
finding?
You just see more and more people living it more openly. and the internet and the media in general. So it started getting better. Now it is generally better in Austria too. In 2019, we got same-sex marriage, which is very late, but at least we got there in the end. It got better in Austria too, and you saw more and more representation. So you kind of just start entertaining the possibility that you might be part of it. And I think a lot of people go through that questioning phase, even hetero people, and then just come to the conclusion they are not a part of the community, LGBT community. And I just came very quickly to the conclusion I was for sure not part of that community. So very quickly I was like, no, and just locked it away, compartmentalized those thoughts, and never looked at them again.
Yeah, I'm done.
And then exactly, and then I moved away from my family for the first time for longer than just a couple. So I did move out before that. I went to Italy for 3 months for an internship when I was in school, when I was 17. But that is not relevant to this story. I just wanted to have it there for completeness sake, because then I moved out for the second time, and this time for 3 years. I went to a different part of Austria that is about 4 hours away by car, so I couldn't go home every weekend. I stayed there a lot. And I started a university with no one. I didn't know anyone. So that's like a complete clean slate. You can be super open. You can just choose what to share, because with your friends and your family, there's somewhat preconceived notions about you. They've known you for so long that it's really difficult to be super open with something you discovered about yourself in a new way, even though they might accept it or they might not, who knows. But it's just a different step than just telling a stranger confidently that you are bisexual. So I started then more experimenting and thinking about it again, because I was in this new environment where I felt like I could kind of weirdly state and reinvent myself, even though I didn't. I was still me, but it felt like I could be whoever I wanted to be. You know what I mean?
What brought that back up for you then? So like you said, you were kind of forced into independence by moving away.
Yeah,
You're in this new place. There's
exactly.
like nobody you know around. What was it that made you think like, I'm actually gonna, bring these thoughts back in?
I met the first lesbian of my life. It was so I just saw someone that was in the LGBT community, and it was she had a wife, or back then it was a partnership, a civil partnership in Austria, but
Yeah.
they were married, and it was the program director of my program. So, and she was super nice, and we just talked, and it was like she didn't talk about it, of course, because you don't talk about your love life in front of your students, but she did. Just people knew and told me, and I was like, oh, she's so cool. I liked her before that, but then I liked her even more for some reason. And then I was like, if she can do it this openly, maybe I can. I think that was kicked off the process of like thinking about it more again. And then, of course, there was much more representation also available to like think about and read about. And I was in this process of like questioning again. And for about 1.5 years. And then I went on my semester abroad to Finland. So you have to imagine there's like this this area of like blocks, just like 300 to 400 exchange students in one place. Everyone comes there for exchange, and exchange is this weird place where everything that happens there just stays there. You just do whatever you want, and you have your wild
Jesus.
time of your student life. You know what I mean?
This is in
And
Finland.
this was in Finland, yeah. It was central
Oh
Finland.
wow.
And I got there with one other girl from a uni. I liked her, but we didn't get along. We did get along, but we never became greatest friends. But I found like my
Sibling.
people and the people I related to, and I found we had a lot of Dutch people there, and one of the Dutch guys was also bi, and he was super open with it. And over the course of those like 6 months in Finland, I became good friends with him, and we talked a lot about sexuality. He had so many questions. He answered all of them. He was so nice. And after a while, I was like, I think I might be bi. And then I kissed my first girl in a club in Finland, and by then, it was pretty clear.
I'm really, really happy for you
Thank
because
you.
like you said, like you like you said, you've been playing with the idea, it's kind of on your mind, but you had no real outlet. And as soon as you get in front of people that are like openly confident and the
Yeah.
conversation like happens for you, and you're like, oh okay, I can just talk about this, like I can just be myself. Like did you
Yeah.
when you like going through the process, you're like, actually, yeah, this is me, like I'm
Yeah.
bi, I can it must have felt like
It
just a shift.
yeah, it felt like coming into myself a little bit more, because that part had always been there. I just never acknowledged it. And then saying it to this Dutch guy the first time out loud was pretty great. He smiled and he was like, I had a feeling. I had a feeling you weren't straight, Hannah. And I was like, yeah, me too. And he was super great. After I came back from Finland, I decided to come out to my parents. I had came out to my brothers before that, because I was back then already, we were quite comfortable talking about stuff like that, so we were quite open with that. But my parents were kind of a different story, because they never really showed any allegiances. They weren't for or against it. We never had discussed it with them. But assuming, since they were Austrian, brought up Austrian, it's fair to assume that maybe they might have questions or be, confused and not very accepting. But they were super accepting. It's actually also quite a funny story, because I was like, Mom, Dad, can we talk in the kitchen, just us? And it was so emotional for me, because I had held it back for so long. I started crying, and my mom, I could tell she was kind of scared. And I was like, how you guys love each other, and I might just have this with a man or a woman. It doesn't matter to me. My mom was like, I thought you were pregnant. Just, I'm okay with that. Glad you're not pregnant. I was like, oh, yeah, exactly. And then she was like, okay, let's go get some wine. And then we had some wine, and that was it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I love that. I love that so much, especially because you just got the opportunity to just say it.
Yeah.
And like it works out well. I think a lot of people put a lot. I know I definitely do put a lot of pressures on ourselves. Well, you do obviously as well. Put a lot of pressures on ourselves when like I can't be my real self because of what other people are going to think.
Yes.
I can't do it without, like, oh, what my parents can say, what my friends can say, what these people are going to say. And it's like, these people fucking love you.
Yes. And I'm so grateful, really, that they do. And now also with the masters, having, as I mentioned earlier, like a more diverse friend group is not only nationality wise, but also sexuality wise. And that was also one of my other first times to like see a real long-term homosexual relationship with Zhu and her girlfriend that have been living together for a couple of years. And that was just so great, because it was way more normal than you expect it to be. You know what I mean? Because there are people, of course, but you always, if you don't know anyone and aren't like close to anyone in a homosexual relationship, you don't really know what it's like, and it's not really that different. And realizing that again made me even more comfortable, and now I'm in a place where I'm very open with it. There are few people who don't know, but not because I wouldn't tell them, but just because I always find it awkward to just go up to your aunt and say, hey, I just want to tell you I'm not straight, because why would they need that information? I've decided that they will find out when they find out. I don't need to go outright and tell them.
If it comes up, yeah, like you can just.
If it comes up, sure.
Oh yeah, no,
yeah.
Not just gonna like, just like call people up randomly, like, hey.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm bye, goodbye.
No, because you wouldn't do that if you were straight, like.
Exactly, that's the point.
I think that's a really good point about saying how it was. You're around it and it becomes normalized, because obviously, even on like a society level, there's so much stuff that's like, is it normalized? Is it not normalized? Like, we're in a massive with so many things, whether it's like LGBTQ or political or global politics or anything like that. It's like everyone's like, is it? It depends what circles you're in. There's people who I was interviewing to come on the podcast, and they're like, oh, I watched some of your episodes, and like you said you're on Twitch, and they know nothing about Twitch.
Okay.
They're like, what is Twitch? And I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But for us, it's like
it's such a big part. I keep finding people that I have to explain what Discord is. And I was like, what? How do you not know?
Yeah, like the whole like, there are people who don't watch YouTube. And to me, that boggles my mind.
I'm confused.
Yeah, because it's such like, I just go, oh, what am I going to do tonight? I'm going to watch a YouTube video, or like you have dinner or something.
Yeah.
Or watch a podcast or something, and it's different for different people. but you can only go on what your experiences are. And like you said, if you were in Austria and like sex is a no-go, you're like, well, okay, I'm not going to talk about this then, because
Yeah. Oh, and that's also one of the big differences between my Austrian friend group and my more diverse friend group. My Austrian friend group is super great. I love them all. But I would I it's not like I'm a different person with them, but it is a very different vibe hanging out with them as opposed to the
Mm.
university crew that I have now, I think.
do your Austrian friends know that you're
Yeah.
bisexual?
Yeah, they do.
How did they take it?
Quite well. So my best friend and her little sister, which are part of that group, they took it super well. Um, and then the others kind of found out by default because at some point we talked about it. I didn't have this big coming out moment with any of them because, in my opinion, it's great if you want to have that with your friends and your circle. I just didn't feel the need to. Um,
Mm.
because in my opinion that has always been a part of me even before they knew it was there. I didn't change all of a sudden, so there's no need to announce this that much, but they found out after a
Mm.
while. And no one ever said anything, so I assume they're taking it well. I'm still friends with them, so
Well, like you said, if the cultures kind of suggest that you don't really talk about it, then they're probably not going to
yeah,
talk about it with you. If
they were
it's
like,
like,
okay.
okay, that's fine. I like what you said about the coming out moment. I like that how you seem to be very grounded in what you have control over. Like you're like, don't need a big coming out. Like people can have that, like because it's like
Of
a moment
course.
of you acknowledging yourself, and you're kind of celebrating that, like with your, like you said, with your friend in Finland, like the guy who was
Yes.
bisexual. Like you kind of have a big moment together because you're like, oh, I'm acknowledging myself. Like I can see that in myself, and then he knows what that's like to go through as well. So
Yes.
you can kind of share the experience, which is really lovely. Whereas obviously, if someone's not bisexual and they don't have that moment, they're probably gonna be like, oh well, that's good for you, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that's nice. The one point that oh shit, we've been going for like an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh shit.
That's so
Damn.
fast. This is probably the fastest one I've done. I didn't realize the time. I thought it was like half an hour. Jesus. Um, one of the points that you said on like before was that you're kind of in a space now where you're starting to see the beauty in your journey. I think this would be like a
Yes.
really nice positive way to finish. It's kind of obvious from what you've said like throughout this kind of as we've spoken, but are you like you're seeing it as like a beautiful journey now?
Yes and no. Of course, it's beautiful to be here now and to like look back and see how far I've come. But going through it was still pretty shit. I hated going through it. I didn't
Yeah.
like that at all, and that's okay though. That's fine. It makes me appreciate now much more. So I wouldn't really change anything of what I've done so far. It made me the person who I am today.
Mm.
So yes, it's very, very good that I'm here, and it's very beautiful where I'm now, and it's beautiful to see how much I've grown from the things I've experienced. But no, in the sense that experiencing them was still pretty shitty sometimes.
Yeah. It doesn't make it any less like
No,
shitty.
but
Basically,
that's
I think
okay.
we all go
That's
through.
okay. Yeah, I talked with Julia the other day, and one of the things she said stuck with me. She said, "People, we are living in such a world where like positivity is so forced sometimes. You're always supposed to be happy. You're always supposed to feel good, even
Mm.
if you feel bad, you're supposed to feel good about feeling bad somehow. But sometimes you're just allowed to feel shitty and allowed to feel bad, and that's okay. It needs to be there. We're just human. We can't be happy all the time, and I think that's like really, really important to realize.
The forced positivity for sure.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, it's interesting. Did you feel like you have like forced positivity in certain parts of your life?
Yeah, sometimes I just notice when I'm anxious, I'm like, okay, we're gonna get out of that space now, we're gonna get better now. But sometimes you just need to feel anxious. It's okay to feel anxious sometimes. It's okay to have a bad day. You don't need to get out of it in the next 10 or 5 minutes. You can just feel the pain
Mm.
too.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Just feel it. I had it today when the internet, like we were streaming, the internet went down. I had so much work to do. I was like, I can't stream, I can't do work. Now we can't record the podcast, and I had all this like stress like coming up, and
Yes.
I was just sat there and I was like, it's fine. Like, obviously, I'm gonna feel like this.
Yeah,
Like,
that's okay.
you know, I was like, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just gonna sit here and be like stressed. And
Yeah,
I went for a walk
go for a
and like
walk,
had some food.
have some
Yeah,
food.
just like did some little bit, like washed like laundry, tied it up a bit, and
Nice.
like just did some like little bits. And I was like, huh,
Yeah, see?
yeah. Like I just felt it, and it just went.
Yeah,
It's
and you did
nice.
a little bit that was better than nothing. See?
No, it's nice. I like that a
It's
lot.
nice.
To kind of finish off with, if we're asking everyone the
Yeah.
question, if you go back in time, speak to your younger self, what would you say? Have a little conversation with baby Hannah.
Baby
Well, maybe not
Hannah.
baby, but
Baby Hannah is such a good like keyword. A big part in therapy that we have talked about is that a lot of the things, so like one of the first visualization exercises we did was me going to my own heart, and only I have the key for my heart. And I open the door and there is only one person in there, and it's 4-year-old little Hannah, or I don't know, it doesn't, the age doesn't really matter.
inner
Little
child
Hannah,
Hannah, yeah.
child Hannah is in there,
Yeah.
and all I do now and all I want to achieve is to, or all I do I do to protect her, to make her feel safe, to make her feel comfortable. So what I would tell myself if I could go back is, whatever you're going through and whatever you do, I will always be there for you. And it might not feel that way right now, but I will always be there and be there for you in the end.
I love that. I really love that. This is why it's funny that you mentioned the therapy, because that's exactly where it was. It's all about that inner child, kind of going back there. Because you're still the same person.
Yeah.
You're just a bit wiser. You know a lot more. You're kind of more independent, but you are technically still like
Yeah,
the same
exactly.
thing. So yeah, I'm always, that's really nice. When you first went back there, what was your kind of experience? Can't go back into it now, but
Yeah.
it's a strange sensation.
It is. I was very sad. So I looked at little Hannah and I was like, she's actually, she was so happy. I was so carefree and running around and so smiley, and I still am. I'm still super happy. I love living life. I love doing things. I love laughing and smiling. But I just wasn't in that space for a long time, and I really missed myself, if that makes any sense. So I
Yeah,
missed
100.
how I
Well, if
was.
anyone, well, you can go into it if you want. Like, I understand how you feel, but just like in your own words.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Well, that was basically it. I just miss loving living as much, and I'm getting back there, which is really nice. So reflecting on like the whole journey now is I'm getting closer to where I was before. I don't even know if that person ever really existed. Maybe that's an idealized memory in my mind, but I miss that feeling, and I'm getting closer to it, which is really, really great.
Such a nice way to like tie it up.
Yeah.
Because you might not ever get to like, it's probably that performance thing. Like,
Yeah.
you might not ever get there, but it's you're like, oh shit. But it's like but it's like an ongoing process.
Yeah, of
Like, because
course.
your life will change, your experiences will change. You'll move somewhere or get a new job, or you'll finish your masters, and things will change all the time. So that the kind of benchmark always will be moving around.
Yeah, of course.
Which is fine. Like, if it didn't move around,
That would be
that would
weird.
suck.
That would suck. That is true.
Yeah, it'd be horrible. Like, you'll meet people, you'll get in relationships with people, and you'll like prioritize them, and it will all they'll become a priority, and things like that, and it will all it'll always be shifting. I think that's a really like a beautiful thing. You're not so much even. It doesn't even sound like you're chasing it. You're just like,
No.
I'm just doing.
Yeah, I'm just growing and getting there, but there's no sense in forcing it, because that doesn't help.
That's lovely, Hannah. It's been lovely
Yeah,
speaking
I
to
had
you.
such a blast. It was so much fun. So disruptive too.
Did you actually enjoy
Everyone just was here for my dad yelling, my dog, my brothers. Oh well. It's a very accurate
I love
representation
it.
of our household, though.
That's cool. I like that. It's you'd be amazed. Like, with to be fair, I'll probably keep Luna in, because
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
she's
keep her in.
adorable.
Keep her in. It's totally fine.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Is there anything that you want to plug? There's space. You don't have to, but
Not really.
No, a lot of people that come on, they're like, they have like books and stuff. So it's
Oh,
like,
no.
there's the opportunity there.
I know. If you know any companies that
lovely.
would be willing to interview with me, let me know.
So reach out to Hannah.
Help me with my thesis, please.
Yeah, if your company earns over 250 million in revenue a year, and you're to do with growth.
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if you'll get anything back from that, but I mean, you literally
it's worth a try.
Like, could be cool. It's been a pleasure though. Do you want to wave goodbye?
Yes, let's wave goodbye.
We'll do it together. Okay. Bye everyone. Bye. Thanks for listening. Bye.